Why live in an HOA?
Warning. 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 Viewer discretion advised.
So Justin, you actually are part of a big group that
Yes.
manages a lot of the 55 plus communities.
Correct.
So he's perfect to chat with about this.
The best thing really is to kind of start of like, what is an HOA, right? And that's a homeowners association, right? And so many people coming from different parts of the country are not familiar with that. There's a lot of benefits to it. I think the biggest thing is really just the ability to kind of almost be hands off in many ways, right? So you're not required sometimes to mow your yard. You're not required to pay all the extra bills or worry about the roads, right? You have somebody to depend upon, or a structure to depend upon that developers put in place based on state laws and statutes. One of the most beneficial parts of being in a 55 and better community is just community. It's really, you're moving from different parts of the country, you don't know people. I love the community aspect. I love the opportunity to meet new people. Right? Even in my role, getting the opportunity to meet with board members and to meet with community members. And just the other day I was voting and the guy goes, "I know who you are." And I was like, "Who are you?" Yeah. And he goes, "I live over at the community right down the road." And I was kind of like, fantastic. And so I asked him how it was and he loved it,
Right.
And so.
Well,
yeah.
and that's an important tidbit to know. It's not like you guys are managing this community for these folks and they have no say-so.
Sure.
Your board is involved too.
Mm-hmm.
I think the initial culture of the 55 plus was even specifically to share expenses like that,
Sure.
share the amenities, share the management and the opportunities, as well as that aspect of getting a community together. And this is something you folks can ask when you're talking about your communities. Is it a hired management company or is there just resident managed? There's probably a big difference.
Yeah. Well, a couple things. First and foremost is really when you have a self-managed community, what ends up happening is that you have to hire the manager, right? And on top of that, now you're hiring the additional pieces, but you manage that entire process. You don't have the oversight that you would of a management company, right? You don't have the support structure. You don't have people that have been in the industry for 20, 30 years that are focused on finances, are focused on insurance, are focused on lending, right? Most banks don't want to lend to an association. Right. But if you're part of a network that knows whose banks are going to do that. And so there's a lot of benefits to being with a management company. Is there an additional expense to that? Yes. But if you're talking about lifestyle programming, if you're talking about just upcoming and new opportunities or understanding what's on the docket, right? So one of the great things about an HOA, or one of the key aspects of an HOA is really the ability to increase or to continue to see your property values increase, right?
That's right, because of the care and the updating of your amenities and things like that.
Exactly.
Improve that. I think one of the things to look for, and your agent can help you with this, is the reserve funds.
Sure.
So, is there a big difference when, say, a builder has a community versus it's turned over to the HOA?
Sure.
They should be fluffing up that reserve fund.
Yeah, well, hopefully the developer has.
It's good questions to ask.
Hopefully the developer has funded the reserves properly, right? And so depending on the type of community, if you have a gated community, the reserves are going to be higher because now you're responsible for the roads versus the city was responsible for it at first, right? But once the developer's gone, now the association bears the responsibility. And so the great thing about that though, and don't take, not for nothing, but one of the best things about being part of an HOA is the ability, or being part of the board, is to cast a vision, right? And vision is really where you can do your long-term and short-term strategic planning in the association. So that's a good understanding of a good board, right? And so when you're calling the HOA, and yes, call the HOA, call the office and say, "Hey, I'm interested in buying in there. I'm just curious, what's going on there? What are you guys doing today? What does the lifestyle look like? What's the amenities?"
Any potentials for special assessments, that kind of thing.
Yep.
And this is again with a professional realtor on your side.
Sure.
They can make sure that they touch base and check in on all that too.
So one of the things that one of the communities we manage, which is a fantastic community, is they have networked with the health care providers in the area, like Orlando Health or things like that, and then they negotiate the opportunity for that doctor to be a sole doctor specifically for that community. And so, and
that's some nitty gritty that I didn't even know happened.
They can reserve times to see the doctor or to see the nurse. And so that's the great thing about being on a committee or a board, is that you have the opportunity to get involved, you know. Some of these committees are fantastic, and it can be anything from, you know, road construction to common area improvements, you know, things like that. You know, when you're driving in a community, you know, take a look at the buildings, take a look at the sidewalks, see if there's issues with trees that are popping up the sidewalks, you know, little things like that. You can tell if that is being managed properly by seeing key areas where safety is an issue, risk is an issue.
Not everybody likes an HOA because they may want to put purple polka dots on their house and then a few large statues, and sometimes these communities, you know, they want a uniform kind of aesthetic look.
Yeah. If you had your neighbor painting their door polka dots, and you had the next neighbor that had their boat and 4 cars in the lawn, and then all of a sudden your property value is dipping.
Yes.
Right?
Agreed.
And so it's important.
Very good point.
Yeah. And so I think that's one of the key areas where a board or an association or a good management company can really continue to make sure that your investment is being handled properly.
You know, once you have sort of a standard or set HOA, and say the community kind of says, well, how do we add cable? Because that's happened to quite a few of our Leesburg communities.
Sure.
Is it a vote, or you guys decide, or how does that work?
Yes. Typically what would happen is that the board would present that to the management company or the manager, or even the manager would say, hey, what do you think about this, right? And so then it's just a matter of going out to reputable vendors, right? And saying, hey, this is what we're looking at, this is the scope of work, and what can we do? And so one of the great things about being with a management company or a national management company, even like the one I work for, is that we have national negotiated contracts. So there are certain vendors that do business with us throughout the country, right? And so we're able to reduce costs to the Homeowners Association as a whole and to the budget because we're able to negotiate fairer rates. And so those are key areas for having a good management company, but that process as a whole is typically dependent upon the association's documents. You know, one of the cool things about being part of an HOA, and I talked to this briefly, was like the opportunity to be on the board, right? So I don't know if people really realize this, but every board member that's part of the board is non-paid. They're all voluntary. I think anybody that takes on the role of being a board member, there's a little bit of like this love-hate, right? Because you're genuinely trying, most people I think are trying to do the right thing, right? But at the same time, you also have a very large weight on your shoulder because you have a fiduciary responsibility to take care of the association. And a variety
of opinions.
Yeah. A lot of opinions, you know, and some are very valid, you know. And I think one of the things about being part of any association is really just maybe learning how to communicate a little bit better and talk. And so that puts people in positions where they can impact change, right? And they can make good decisions, and they can start to see good things happen, because not every association, no association is perfect, right?
Right.
But some associations are fantastic, and then some associations are just waiting for good people to come and live there and come up with great ideas.
Right. So the bottom line is HOAs are a great way to control the value of your communities and your safety in your communities, and have just a really fantastic retirement opportunity with less responsibility, and a lot of people can just lock the door and go.
Sure.
And it's taken care of, so.
Yeah, I mean, just being in my role, right, and coming from different industries or different roles over my experience and my time as a professional, one of the things that I love about the industry is really the opportunity to meet people. And what I mean by that is that people that are board members or people within communities, it's their item. They're not working for a company. They're not, you know what I mean?
That's true.
It's yours. And so it's valuable. It's important. A good management company can help to guide the board, not make decisions, because the management company doesn't make the decisions. The board does, and they vote on it, and so does the, you know. But in general, working with a good management company it gives that board the ability to really deal with the high level issues, right? And then we can work through the day-to-day kind of stuff. And so HOAs are great assets. I think they're definitely important for, again, property values, the way of life, safety, security, and so yeah, it's a great place to meet good friends too.
Well, I got to say thank you for Justin for taking your time. I know you've been super busy, I'm sure. Thank you so much for watching. You know how to reach us if you'd like to get connected to one of our agents to help you in your journey on exploring your 55+ options. And you can call us, email us, text us, explore55plus.com. Thanks so much.